Hi to our awesome tutor tribe. Thank you for joining us here in Tutor Success Academy. It's fun to have you here. I have a question for you guys today. You know, a lot of these kind of start with a question. How do you help parents get on board when you have new policies and procedures? Like, how do you get them adjusted to changing how you do things in your tutoring business? So one of the things I love about the Tutor Success Academy course and private group is we have awesome conversations in there. And it's such a great place to bring up when you try something and it doesn't quite work. It is so incredible to be able to talk to other tutors who are running their businesses and just kind of be like, yo, what's going on with this, right? So a fantastic kind of comment came up recently in the TSA private group. And so one of our tutors, a really awesome tutor, a great tutor, she has this great tutoring business, and she decided that this year she was going to tighten up how she does her finances and how she does payments in her business, which is something we talk about and really encourage in TSA, in the course. And so this year she was going to start having a more structured payment model. She was using the tuition model, which is also what I use. And we go over a lot of these different ways of doing things in TSA. But so she wanted to start it. And so she was going to have parents pay at the beginning of the month. She had their amount set ready to go. And so she was going to start new procedures. And so she comes into the group, and tell me this has not happened to you, where you start something, you work really hard to get something going in your tutoring group, and it just doesn't quite work out the way you think it's going to work out, right? So she came to us and she just said, okay, so I started it. I wanted to start my new tuition plan and model, and it started September 1st. And so our payments were going to be due September 1st. And here it is, September 6th, and nobody is paid for their tutoring this month. Imagine how disappointing that is and frustrating, right? When you put in the effort and the work to make things more streamlined and you think you've made it really clear that this is how you're going to be doing things, and crickets. You don't hear anything from anybody, right? I know this has happened to a lot of you watching because it's happened to me many times. And so I wanted to talk to you today about some things that have been really helpful when I'm implementing new things in my tutoring business. And these are tips that also have come from other tutors as well. So not just from my experience. So whenever you're trying to start something new, and so today's example was talking about starting a new way of doing tutoring payments, right? But this could be anything. This could be if you're doing a new schedule. This could be if you're doing a new cancellation policy, like sick policy. If you're changing how you do things for winter weather. This could even be things like if you go to people's houses to tutor and you set up and establish some routines to make it more successful, right? How do you not only communicate these things, but how do you help parents and families be successful in following through on this and kind of getting on board with what you're trying to do, right? Because that's a part of being a leader in our business, is we kind of set the path for everybody. But how do you help parents be successful with that too? Because it can be really disappointing. You're ready. You're like, okay, this month, this year, I'm going to start this great new system in my business where I'm going to be able to really count on my income. It's going to be consistent. I'm going to know when it's coming in. This is going to be awesome. And then when it doesn't really happen right away, it can be frustrating. I know it can be for me. So I wanted to give you a few tips today that maybe could help you with this a little bit. And then at the end of this video, I want to know, because you guys, all of you watching have just a wealth of experience with your tutoring businesses. And so I'd love to hear from you. What are some things that have worked really well when you are implementing something new in your business? How do you help families to know what to do and when to do it so they can be successful and you can be successful? Okay? So first, number one, don't assume. Don't make assumptions, okay? So even if you have made that fancy handbook, which, hey, I put a lot of effort into my fancy handbook, right? Or you've typed it up, or you've sent the email, or you've had the conversation, whatever it is, you can't assume that all the parents have even seen what you sent out, right? They might not have read it. They might have glanced at it, but they maybe haven't really read it. Or maybe they read it and then things got busy and they kind of forgot that you sent it, right? So we can't assume that because it's important to us, it is as important to our families. It doesn't mean that it's not important, but to us, getting paid on time is vitally important, right? But to a family or to parents, we are one of many different places that have to get paid, things that have to get turned in, right? We are one of many things that have to get checked off the to-do list. I even make a joke about it with my families. So I tell them, so I do have a handbook that I make, and it has, you know, their tuition plan, the example of the tuition plan and how it works, expectations, winter cancellations, sick days. It has everything laid out in there, right? But what I do is I kind of make a joke about it, and I tell parents, look, just in case you don't have my handbook in a shrine in the corner with candles and you lovingly look at it every single day, make sure you've read the part about. And so I kind of make a joke out of it. And I even have parents that go, oh, I know I didn't read it yet. So I have to assume that not everybody is going to always read things as much as I think they're going to, okay? So that's why I make a joke out of it. I say, I know it's not hanging in a gold frame above your fridge, you know, with flowers. It's okay, you know. So I kind of make a joke about like taking it seriously. But we can't assume. We can't assume that just because we put the procedure in place that everybody knows about it, okay? Which brings me to point number 2, is just like with students, right? Whether you're tutoring, whether you're running a classroom, in the beginning when you're teaching procedures, you always do extra teaching and reinforcement and reminders around the new procedure, right? The fact is we have to do this with adults as well because we're all humans, right? We are all humans. And so I want you to think about whatever that new procedure is that you're doing, how can you set everybody up for success? So I send out a reminder email once a month and I say, here's what's coming up, right? So it's September reminders, November reminders. And the very first reminder every single month is, remember, payments are due this week. You can pay by da 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 da. If you're already on auto pay, you're already set. Like every single time, that is my very first reminder. And you guys, my parents, I don't even have any new parents right now. I have, they're continuing with me. That's still the very first bullet point in every single monthly reminder is payments are due, don't forget. I also remind them about holidays coming up. If it's getting to be winter weather, I remind them in the handbook where the winter policy is, and I even like restate it. So I go ahead and make it really clear for them, but I know that, you know, sometimes this is what it takes, is sending out reminders, okay? So we do extra teaching and we do extra reminders around the procedure, and we don't assume that people like consumed everything we sent out. You know, think about how busy you are, and especially when you think about parents, how much they have to look at, right? So they might have looked at it, they might have even thought they understood it, but they might not necessarily remember it with the same urgency that we want people to remember it. So don't assume. Extra reminders and extra teaching around things in a positive way. And then number 3, speak up. So when you see a family and it's the first session of the month, say, how are you going to pay for tutoring this month? It doesn't have to be icky or weird. It can be totally positive, and you're kindly reminding them payment is due. How did you want to pay for it this month? That gives them the chance to go, oh yeah, here's my credit card, or oh, let me write you a check, or you know what? I totally forgot. Let me go run to the bank while you guys are tutoring and I'll come back with cash. So if you talk to them, especially at the beginning of the session, that actually gives them a little bit of time to get that check written or do whatever it is they're going to do. Now, a lot of my families, like more than half of my families, are set up on like an auto pay system where their card is automatically debited on the first of every month. But the families that are not, the first session, I just say, oh, how are you going to pay for this month? It's super casual. It doesn't have to be weird, okay? But by speaking up, you give them the chance to remember that payment is due in a kind way. And you also give them that opportunity not to be like embarrassed if they forgot they forgot it was payment time, and you know, it's the middle of the month and you're like, hey, are you gonna pay me? Right? Like everybody wants to feel good about it. So speak up and just ask, how are you going to pay? Or, hey, remember, we have this cancellation or this holiday, or you know, I want to remind you about something, just because, you know, it's always helpful to have a reminder. So just kind of be proactive about speaking up about things. Now, I want you to remember that parents are busy, just like we are. So most of the time, if a parent is forgetting something that you have set up or established, it tends to just be because they're busy. You know, they're not out to get you. They're not out to like take the money and run for the hills, right? they just are busy, right? They have all kinds of things that they have to fill out, get done, get kids to different appointments, all kinds of different things. And so if we remember that they're busy, it's a helpful thing, right? It's like an act of service to remind them about something that is coming up, like paying. If it's a new procedure, you'll want to do new reminders. So if I'm starting a new payment procedure, that maybe a week before it starts, I might say, remember, September starts in a week. We're starting our new payment plan. So I wanted to let you guys know, I will be asking you and I'll remind you that week. Remember, payments are due your first session of the month, or payments are due however that is, your invoice, whatever you're doing. So give more reminders in the beginning, but eventually you can just do simple little reminders and it's like just not a big deal anymore. So my families are awesome and really they do a fantastic job. They're like Johnny on the spot. They get things done. If I need to ask, how are you paying? They have a way to pay, but it doesn't always mean they have that check ready to go. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they go, oh yeah, let me get my checkbook out. So it's okay to ask. Parents are busy, all right? But we want to be as proactive as we possibly can be with reminders. And just assuming, I've had parents tell me, oh yeah, I didn't actually read the handbook. I'm sorry. I've been meaning to. And I get it. That's okay. I don't read everything that gets sent to me too, even when I have the best intentions. Now, I want to finish up with one more kind of note on this. It can feel a little icky sometimes to ask for payment because the fact is while we're running a tutoring business, we have a teacher's heart and sometimes it feels icky, but you have every right to be paid for your services. That was the agreement when they signed up. They knew that there was a trade here that you would get paid for the services you're providing. So it doesn't have to feel icky or weird or like you're being mean to ask for payment and expect payment to be on time. There's nothing wrong with that, and that is okay. You don't have to soften the blow and give them a plate of chocolate cookies to make it okay that they're paying you. You are able to expect to be paid, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a really good thing. You're getting paid for the good that you're bringing into their world, okay? Now, sometimes, and this might actually be a better conversation for a future Facebook Live, but or training or video or whatever. But if you're running into a situation where it's more of a chronic problem, that's kind of a different scenario. Today, we're really just talking about regular old reminding families and how do we let them know when things are changing, how do we set them up for success, right? But if you have a family that is habitually late or habitually late on their payment or whatever that is, at that point, you might have to set up an alternate plan of some sort. Okay, but for now, we're just talking about the regular old, I asked everybody to do this and nobody's doing it. And you guys, it still happens to be. Not so much with payments anymore, but I have certain things that have to happen because of my office building and my parking lot and how things go. And I find that I have to do a lot of reminders and I'm like, okay, then I think I need to print out a page that says, here are reminders for the parking lot. Please make sure you read them, and I maybe hand it to people or something like that. Sometimes I have to do things to be proactive in a lot of different areas of my business, and that's okay. So I'd love to know from you, what do you do? What things have worked really well for you when you are implementing something new in your business? How have you gotten parents on board to be successful so that things run a little bit more smoothly? I'd love to know your tips, so please leave them in the comments below. So thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you guys have a great week in your tutoring businesses. Bye.